Hello, everyone. This is episode 3 of the Hellbound podcast. I'm Alex Blackburn, the bearded one.
Yeah, and I am D-list actor Michael Chan, the one who cannot grow a beard. When I was I did the Scottish play quite a few years back at the beginning of my career. Basically, the way the director wanted it was that we're all a bunch of wolves, we're a wolf pack. So he said, "Okay, nobody shave. None of you men shave, okay? From now all the way until our show opens, don't shave. I want beards on you." Time passed, and it was time to go on stage. And I got to the theater, and the director was like, "Michael, hey, yo, I thought I told you not to shave." I'm like, "I haven't." "What are you talking about?" I haven't shaved. Like, why is there barely anything on your face?" So I showed him progress photos because I knew this would happen. I took a photo a day for like 4 months, and it showed, barely any progress. To some people, by the way, that would be a horror film in and of itself. It's like a stop motion horror film, because I'm flicking it so fast. But anyways,
There's a Simpsons episode, a Halloween Horror Night, about a wig that's possessed, a bearded version. That would be interesting.
But no. For some people, the inability to grow a beard is a horror film. But as someone born with genetics that make me not able to grow a beard, I'm used to it. This is the horror story that is my life. Let's get to the actual episode itself and not waste people's time anymore with my beard.
Yeah,
Face.
I don't think we're going to post that really boring time lapse of your beard not growing. I'm going to kind of focus this a little bit around a film that Michael and I wanted to kind of check out again. Was Event Horizon, and I watched it with my wife Vicky. It was the first time she'd ever seen it. There's so much to it for her, and so much to it for me again for seeing it so many times. Before we get to that, I wanted to kind of reflect a little bit on the films we watched, just a tiny amount, because we kind of highlighted that last week of what we watched at Halloween. And thanks to you, Michael, for recommending the Muppets Haunted Mansion on
You're
Disney.
very welcome.
On Disney Plus. Not a sponsor yet, but they will be. And
Hopefully.
It was really good fun. I think it was really good fun. And as soon as mystery is there, it's kind of like there's smoke and a scary house. Yeah, I'm sold. I'm in. And the dance number in front of the tombstones right at the beginning. I saw Danny Trejo, and I recognized the couple of I think it was Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was one of the ghosts.
I thought it was. I haven't looked it up.
I really enjoyed it, but the one small thing, and they may have made this in COVID, and it would explain a lot, is the lack of physical sets. And it's just a small thing, and that's something I kind of associate in the playfulness and the lighting with Muppet films. That's the only thing I didn't like. I can't remember the actress's name that played the quote-unquote bride. I remember her from Person of Interest. She's a great actress. And I just thought everyone played it really well.
No, they did. I do know what you mean by the lack of physical sets, but I had always assumed there has to be a reason for that. So,
yeah. And plus, you save an absolute ton of money, which makes a lot of sense. And the fact that
makes sense, yeah.
I'll let that go. I'll let that go if I see more Muppet movies of this quality.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, for me, it's all about the feel of it, and still captured the old feel, right? Something the newer ones didn't, so.
Yeah. My personal favorite moment, I hope this isn't spoilers, when he's looking in the mirror and it kind of looks back at him, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a great little sequence.
Well, I love that sequence too.
So yeah, I absolutely love that, and I'm cracking on nicely in my Freddy Krueger run. I've gone to Dream Child now. I think it's number 5, and probably the worst. I don't know what happened with these films, because it just started getting really silly and just making it about the craziness that gets on in these happens in these nightmares, and it's just gets really ridiculous, and I think kind of loses its purpose quite a lot. And trying to extend the story or the mythos behind Krueger himself, it's kind of expanding on it too much, rather than, I think it's probably 3 or 4 films at least too long, the whole franchise.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything else other than Event Horizon, although I have also been watching Masters of the Universe Revelation on Netflix. That's the Kevin Smith He-Man show. I've read some of the complaints people have had about it, and I don't know, I'm really enjoying it.
The animation looks amazing.
It's fantastic. The refocus of the show to not be on Prince Adam and not on He-Man and on a different character might upset some people, but to those people I say, if you just want to have a He-Man centric show, just watch the original or the new 3D cartoon thing for kids. What Kevin Smith did is fantastic. But sticking with the horror theme, there's a lot of horror elements to Kevin Smith's version, which I do appreciate. The other thing I want to say is, to some people, I guess you would say it is horror because it's their worst nightmare, because it's centered around a woman and they can't handle that.
Controversy around anything, that probably exhausts me more than anything else. The kind of endless moaning. Just watch something else. Tune in to something else. Wait a bit, wait for the reviews to tell you what it's about, and if you don't like that, just shut the hell up and watch something else. I know we were joking about Spiral and Chris Rock's kind of turn in that film, but there's a great film called Spiral, and it's on Shudder. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
No.
It's very, very good. It's about a same-sex couple, and the lead actor is Jeffrey Bower Chapman, and he's one of the guest hosts and I think designer on the RuPaul All Stars. This guy can act. I'd seen him on RuPaul before. I just absolutely smashed it. Where's this come from, this film? And I was like, yeah, it made me really excited about Shudder and the service going forward. So yeah, check out Spiral. That's excellent.
At some point, you might be hearing the name Hunting Darkness pop up. Short film that stars my best friend, Katisha Shah, as well as me as a villain. It's a good little horror thing. It's starting its festival run. Just premiered this past Saturday in Los Angeles in actual theater, which is very exciting. Hopefully it'll make the rounds, and at some point you guys will be able to see it.
When it's more readily available, we'll kind of talk about that in depth.
Oh yeah.
Right. That kind of leads me on nicely onto, what's your go-to cinema snack when you go to a theater?
My go-to cinema snack?
So I know we talked Halloween candy last week.
Yeah, so I have two. Usually it's popcorn. It's my wife's favorite thing. Popcorn layered with butter. So I used to, when I was young, never eat popcorn. Like I actually didn't eat anything when I went to the theater growing up. My parents didn't believe in eating things at the theater, so I didn't either. But then I started dating my wife, and that changed everything. So started with popcorn. I'm in love with popcorn. But if I wanted something else and I didn't want popcorn or something with popcorn, or I didn't have dinner that day, it would be nachos with cheese and salsa.
Not the chilies.
They don't have chilies.
Oh, interesting. That's something.
Well, at least at the theaters I go to, it's just cheese and salsa. Used to be you get both. Now you get one. So if I had to choose, it would be cheese. They're getting stingier, but yeah, like all the theaters that I go to that have nachos, that's what I get. Sometimes I get a hot dog as well. I like to put ketchup, mustard, and relish on it. But that would be like when I want like an actual like meal, you know?
Yeah. And I'm a bit of a troffer, as I call it, like a pig in its head in a trough. And I normally finish I'm one of those classic people, normally finish everything by the end of the trailers. I think it's because I don't really want to be it's terrible. The popcorn, the butter's not a huge thing here. It's never kind of poured on. It's normally sweet or salted, or a mix. You can have a mix, and I normally go for salted on that. My go-to is, I think I mentioned this last week for Halloween candy as well, is Maltesers. And when Blade 2 came out, Del Toro's Blade 2, and I absolutely love everything about it. Donnie Yen, Wesley Snipes, Ron Perlman. It's just so much fun. And I actually went to see it 5 times in the theater.
Oh wow.
And I had this kind of, it's going to sound horrendous, had this Coke binge, Coke and Maltesers. So I was like up on sugar and Coca-Cola in a really kind of horrible way. And that's when I really disconnected with full fat Coke. But I loved the film. It was just something about the energy of it. And I'm like, this is fantastic. And obviously it's the sugar in my system. I really enjoyed that film, and Del Toro's director will definitely be highlighted in the future, because I recently watched Mimic as well, but we'll leave that for another week. The director.
So I've just learned that if I wanted to poison you at a movie theater, if once we meet up in person, I have to do it before the trailers end. Got it. I apologize ahead of time for depriving you of a movie before your death.
especially if it's like something I'm really looking forward to. That'd be a real like June 3 or whatever.
I don't know. I'm bringing this whole poisoning thing back from last week, right? It's an FU, right?
Yeah,
A follow up.
exactly. Yeah. I'll lace. The way I'd kill you is lace it in the wallpaper for your house, like Napoleon Bonaparte. That's how one of the theories about how he died.
Yeah.
I used to work in a movie theatre in Manchester, and Manchester's a huge city in the northwest of England. And there was a 20-screen cinema I used to work at, and I met Trent Reznor there. I served Rihanna, and
Wow.
I met a huge amount. She basically bought tickets for a friend. She was all dressed in denim with a denim hat. And there's lots of stories when you work in a movie theatre in terms of horrible things, positive things. I swapped a shift with someone who was held at gunpoint in a cinema screen. And then when I saw her a week later, I apologized profusely that I'm so sorry I blamed her. There was a SWAT team that went in because Manchester had a SWAT team.
Oh my God.
Yeah, only a few cities have it, not like kind of the US where there's SWAT teams almost everywhere. So
Right.
Manchester had the only SWAT team outside of London at that time. That happened when I swapped the shift with her, and it happened like 6 hours later, this thing. So yeah, it was crazy. Anyway.
Did their football team lose or something? Like, what the hell?
Oh no. Yeah, they're losing all the time now, which is glorious.
Yeah, I
We're
see.
dancing
I
in the
see the
streets
news.
about that. Yeah.
Considering I'm a fan of their team and your team, I get all the news about both teams. So yes, I see they lost to you guys, which was hilarious. That was a bad one.
That's technically what you call crossing the streams when you support both.
Look, man, you and I cross streams all the time, so I'm pretty sure crossing streams is just like a normal Tuesday for me.
A friend of mine was in a urinal next to the porcelain urinals next to Danny Boyle, the director of Slumdog Millionaire and Sunshine, and he turned to, he recognized him, did a double take. He said, "I'm a huge fan of your films." Did his flight, washed his hands and left, and Danny was still peeing. Anyway, my point about the cinema was I used to clean that cheese out when it went solid at the end of the night.
Oh,
nacho
no.
cheese. And it's like something from an Ivan Reitman film. It's disgusting. It really is disgusting.
Oh, no.
But it's really grim. It's like if you want to kind of severely scar someone mentally, you throw some at them at the end of the night. But that was a good jest as well. But yeah, cleaning up after people at cinemas. There's long stories about that when you get warm 2-liter Cokes, all sorts of stuff. So yeah,
I don't even want to. I it's why I clean up after myself.
I do as well, absolutely.
Because seriously, I don't want to subject poor staff to tons and tons of garbage because of me.
Before we get on to kind of the main event, which is Event Horizon, I wanted to ask you, how do you end up picking a horror film? How do you pick a movie to watch? Because I used to find it difficult when I had extensive collection at home, Blu-rays or DVDs or whatever it was, or VHSs back in the day. And then I just ended up finding it really frustrating picking something, and then I ended up going to a stable of 10 films. Like, oh, okay, I'll watch The Hunt for October for the millionth time. How do you pick a new film now to watch?
Usually, I go by the criteria of zombies, yes or no. If yes, watch. If no, move on. Vampires? Yes, no. Yes, watch. No, move on. And then it's just a matter of going with what looks fun, I guess, on every streaming service that I have. And if nothing really pops out, then I consider classics that I haven't seen. Okay. And that's how I do it.
Yeah, classics I haven't seen, that's the one I kind of add to more and more rather than kind of new. And I know I kind of ignore a lot, and I have been disappointed by a lot of streaming services content, and there's little gems like Spiral on Shudder, shout out to Spiral again, that kind of really give me hope for these platforms, because they're not going to go away. And with what Warner Brothers do with their films and HBO Max, sorry,
that's the poison.
It's in this can of Coke. There's a little syringe hole here. In a can. But yeah, it's I have little lulls of watching new stuff, and I just go back to old and classic, and that's something I need to kind of expand on. I used to watch 5 films at the cinema every week because I used to work there, and After
Yeah.
a shift, you go and see one or two. You gotta almost stumble upon these gems because
Hey man, sometimes you'll watch a bad movie and it's so bad it becomes one of those movies you just go back to because it's so bad and you can laugh at it with your friends.
absolutely. Vamp is an extremely dated film I mentioned last week,
Mhm.
and in some ways it's really poor, but in others it's like very similar to Fright Night in what I get out of the film. So I find it difficult trusting reviews, and with how sponsorship deals are done, and with how I see reviewers on YouTube that aren't necessarily disclosing who they're paid by. And
Yeah.
it's really tricky finding the right kind of reviews, and that's the same
I,
with tech and trying to buy anything or seeing reviews is who to trust.
I don't even read reviews anymore. I've given up on reviews. So I just go with gut, I guess. It's not always right, but hey, at least I watch something, and if it's bad, at least I know for myself, since I'm starting into making movies, what not to do. So we're spiraling out of control here. Spiral. So let's spiral backwards to, I don't even know what I'm saying. Let's just do Event Horizon, and let's start by talking about your amazing special edition that I've never seen before in my life, but you showed me a picture and it blew me away. Where did you get that set? And can you describe it to our listeners?
So that set is a DVD box set, and it has a longer making of, because it's got a stronger reputation as time's gone by, and there is a longer, more gruesome cut that's never been released. There's a lot of extra content, and yeah, I've had that box set for years now, and it's one of those that kind of stood out to me. It looks like something from the bulkhead of Event Horizon. You open it up and it's got kind of like skulls coming up the side of the box.
Yeah, it's stunning. Stunning.
And there's a little sleeve that comes out, and it's actually the what's the drive called in the ship? It's say like a black hole drive, isn't it? It's
oh man, I just watched it and my brain immediately goes to warp drive because I'm a Trekkie.
Gravity drive.
Gravity drive, yes, thank you.
And Vicky, who I watched with my wife that I watched it with, she pointed out it's like Galileo's glow for navigating on the oceans, and how I didn't realize that. I was like,
oh wow,
my God.
Yeah,
it absolutely is the way the rings kind of move around each other. Like,
yes,
why the didn't I know that? Because I've kind of seen all that stuff before.
Are we allowed to swear on our show? We never discussed that.
I put it as clean as well, so I best bleep it.
Okay.
So yeah, there's going to be sections of whispering in the next episode. I like that. Just a whole episode whispering, like we're surrounded by monsters. The film itself, Event Horizon, I think it was 1997, and it's the director's best film, Paul Anderson, or Paul W.S. Anderson, not to get confused with P.T. Anderson.
Or Wes Anderson.
Exactly. And I think he's married to Mila Jovovich. This film was made in a hiatus stage of, I think it was Soldier with Kurt Russell, when the director went, I think he got injured on set or something, Kurt. And then there was enough time where Paul Anderson decided to make this. And for me, this is obviously a better film. Just from the get-go, really, in terms of horror, and this is the closest thing to the game Dead Space that you can find in terms of something you can compare it to. But the setup of it is a deep space exploration ship that has this technology. We can jump, it can bend gravity or bend space, and it
bends space and time. It folds, which is a concept that scientists have considered in real life, whether we can find a way, instead of like traveling really fast, to just bend time and space so that you enter, essentially it's like you fold a piece of paper, right? And then you're on one side of the piece of paper, and then you kind of just plop and you end up on the other side. So
the explanation by Sam Neill's character in the film,
which is essentially that,
it's lifted by the Interstellar, the way they explain it in that film.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So I like to think it's a little nod, because it's such a simple explanation, especially a visual one.
So I looked this up, but the game Doom came out in 1993, And no, it's not about folding time and space, but it is about opening a portal to hell and then the results of that. And I felt that considering when this movie was made, they probably got inspiration from Doom.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with the kind of evil and the presence of the evil and the unspoken nature of it. And there's so much to this movie. For me, the most exciting aspect is obviously story's paramount. Story's always paramount. And the most important.
What's a strong story?
And the cast: Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, Jason Isaacs as the Doctor, Sean Pertwee, and yeah, the cast is fantastic. And the production design of this film is almost second to none. I think it's just so well crafted across the whole film.
Beautiful.
It's really, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because it's obviously 97. There's less CG than nowadays, and when I like to mention this, when you actually see CG in this film, it's so obvious. It looks like a video game. Like the stuff floating around when they first get to the ship, I was like, oh my god. This looks like a cutscene from a video game, like an old video game on PS2. For its time, it's still pretty good. But other than that, like a lot of stuff is practical, and that's impressive. That's a lot of work.
Absolutely, like the actual engine room, that set, it's kind of seamless with where the set ends and the rest of it begins. And you feel as though the whole sphere and the nature of the actual engine room is all set. And it's like so rich and tangible. That's the big thing that everyone kind of connects to, the tangibility of, or you real connect with the material, you connect with the horror because it is there, and your brain knows it is. When it's CG and clear, especially dated CG, and the point you made about the floating items like the watch and the water,
the bottle.
Yeah, exactly. It looks really bad now, and back in the day. When I first watched it, it looked fantastic.
You're like, whoa! Yeah, you're like, oh, what? Oh my god, that's so cool! But now, yeah, when you see that engine room, for me, it's the first time it really hit home that this is also a horror film, not just sci-fi. Because if you're gonna design a gravity, engine, why are there so many freaking spikes? It looks like something out of Hellraiser. Okay. Like that is one evil looking engine. I'm sorry, like that it's like the ship looks cool, it's very sci-fi. You walk into the engine room, oh wow, spikes everywhere. Okay, who designed this and why did you put spikes? All right, the guy who designed it is there. He's clearly evil.
There is a possible explanation for that, but it's not hinted at because of the nature of what happens to the ship and where it goes. That those things are part of what happened to it when it came back, or
as in they were added.
Yeah,
but wouldn't Weir, wouldn't he notice the difference right off the bat? And because he wasn't influenced at that point, wouldn't he then comment on how it looks different from what he made?
Yeah, there would have been a throwaway comment to justify that, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And
the only other thing is that maybe he was already under the influence and he was inspired to design it because he somehow connected to the other realm.
He really sold the evil for me, Sam Neill. And there's a John Carpenter film called In the Mouth of Madness, and he plays I think a book publisher trying to find this new Sutter Kane book. And there's moments where he's really truly evil. And also in Memoirs of Invisible Man, Sam Neill's really kind of a dark character, and he sold it for me in a really big way. And I used to quote lines from that film quite often about "You're all coming with me." Another standout element I think is the cinematography, and that's from Adrian Biddle. Sadly, no longer with us, but that guy, my God, he's talented. He squeezes. You can see the talent of a director is when he squeezes the most out of what he's got in front of him, in terms of the set, where you frame actors, and it's a very difficult thing to break down unless you speak to the DP and the director and see how certain decisions were made, why certain shots were done, and it's kind of that's the brilliant thing about collaboration. It's kind of this merging of different disciplines. But Adrian Biddle did Aliens, Princess Bride, Willow, Thelma and Louise, Judge Dredd, Event Horizon, The Mummy, and his last film was V for Vendetta and no matter what you think of the film, it's beautifully shot. So
It was.
yeah,
Yeah.
Adrian did just an absolutely stellar job, and I love how
Yeah.
the captain's chair is suspended from above.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that element. Although I kept like wondering, like, okay, so if the ship shakes, is it supposed to like lessen the impact on him because he's like wobble, 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 or is it just because they wanted to, like, to move around so he can turn and talk to people quick? I don't know.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out the practical reasoning for a chair like that for him and nobody else.
yeah,
But it was cool. Like, it was a good idea, and visually it was amazing.
yeah.
I was just like, what is it for though?
Did you
The
think-
engine, like the engineer brain in me. I'm not an engineer, but like, you know what I mean.
Yeah, is it just made for like a visual thing, or is there
or is there a
practicality to
real
it?
practicality?
Yeah, it just reminded me of the I don't know what they call the column, the way a submarine captain sees out of his ship. Periscope. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that somehow, and the central nature of it, and the crew around him. I love watching this film. It's one of those films I could easily watch again and again, because there's little things I notice each time. When they go onto the Event Horizon itself, before the gravity's re-established, and I can't remember which character it is, he goes down that corridor, looks like a meat grinder, which is a great set piece. He presses this button on the side which opens the door, and it's like a little flip switch. I'm like, well, if there's no gravity in there, that switch wouldn't bounce up and down. So it's just little details like that.
Right. You're right. I know what you're talking about now that I think. Yeah, you're right.
The little things I spot each time I rewatch a film, and it's kind of a joy to see new things in a film you've seen a million times. So
yeah. Hey, do you also notice like the doors that kind of slide open or spin open and closed? They're also kind of evil too. Their teeth.
The spikes everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really don't want to trip up in that place because you're screwed, really, aren't you?
Yeah. I keep, those spikes never actually hurt anyone.
No, even when, is it Kathleen Quinn, the actress that plays Tom Hanks's wife in Apollo 13, the falls down that shaft. That's another dangerous aspect when she sees a ghost son and steps forward.
Yeah. And then,
like, why is that shaft above the engine space? It's ridiculous. What I quite like is the window. Didn't really appreciate the viewing window. It's like a cross. It's not the same, the classic cross that Jesus is on, but that's what kind of it is reflection on that, isn't it?
Yeah, great set design. Really invokes the whole evil feeling.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that. Like, I mean, it's a horror film after all, so you got to have a little bit of creepiness there. As a Canadian, I do appreciate the design of Event Horizon, because over here in Canada, our Canadian geese are absolutely evil. Canadians are supposed to be these magical unicorn people that are like friendly and nice and always saying sorry and all that stuff. But our Canadian geese are like, that's where all our anger and rage go. They go into these animals and they are just aggressive. They will kill you. And Event Horizon looks like a flying Canadian geese with that big long neck.
Yeah, it has got a Star Trek Bird of Prey vibe going on.
It does, but I'm just saying it looks like a Canadian geese because when they fly, you have the big ass neck with the head on the front and then the wings in the back. And I'm just sitting here going, that is a Canadian geese. Someone is Canadian on this set that designed this ship, because they just know how evil our geese are. So they just wanted to make a big old Canadian geese in space, and you get to like explode its neck at the end of the film.
I got a question about the ending, actually. Do you think I'm gonna be rude here. Do you think the arse end of the ship goes back to hell?
I wondered about that, and I theorized it might be caught in between.
Okay.
Because of how messed up things got, I'm wondering if it's caught in between.
Because you don't see it explode. You see obviously the neck, the disconnection between the engine space and the living quarters in the front of the ship. So that's kind of,
I'm wondering if it's in purgatory right now.
Oh God, I don't want to be on that ship.
Because like obviously they left it a little ambiguous, right?
Yeah. with possibly a
on
hint of a
purpose.
sequel, and that's never going to happen now. But
Well, I mean, you never know. Nowadays, they're making sequels and reboots of everything. Eventually, they're just going to get Lawrence Fishburne looking a lot like Morpheus to come back. We could foreseeably see him come back from hell and look, he's actually alive because hell kept him alive, but he wants to destroy hell. So the next movie is like, I don't know, an action horror film where he recruits an army of space people to go and fight hell. I don't know.
it would just be hell, as I see it, just be where Pinhead is, where Hellraiser is, and all of that, and the Cenobites. Because
I mean, this film looks like it could be connected. I mean, the way Sam Neill was the amazing makeup, by the way, in that last battle where he's like naked and cuts and looks like something out of Hellraiser, and I really appreciate it. Like that is some really good makeup.
There's I can't remember the villain or who the person was. There's a scene in Danny Boyle's Sunshine that's got a character that looks exactly like the state of Sam Neill at the end with all the cuts. Like you say, that's a very close reference. It has to be a reference to Hellraiser and Pinhead, especially.
What year was Hellraiser, the original?
I'm going to guess 86. I'm going to check this.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm curious about all the influences of
87.
87, because I am, like I said, I think it was inspired by Doom. I mean, Doom was big around that time, right? It's already 4 years of like being on top, right?
Yeah.
Like Doom was the game back then. And like Hellraiser, Doom, all that, yeah.
I don't know what happened to you can imagine, what's the production designer done since?
Yeah.
And it's a very curious, I'm just looking on the IMDb, and it doesn't say he's passed away or anything, but it's not an updated profile.
What about the writer? What has the writer done?
I think he's done a small amount. I've got that on the tab somewhere here. So the production designer Joseph Bennett, he did a film called Hardware. Now check that out. Hardware sci-fi film, great film. And then nothing of Jude, Event Horizon, Deep Blue Sea, and then Nothing Until Rome TV series, which I think was excellent. Really great show. And then 3 other short films, and that's it. So that's a real surprise, because I think Event Horizon was really, like, maybe he's kind of got tired of this kind of work, but yeah, I think he did an absolutely wonderful effort on that film. I'm just going to check the writer, actually. Philip Eisner.
Eisner?
Yeah, no relation to the chap that Disney.
Okay.
Did do. He just wrote Sweet Girl, new action film with Jason Momoa. He's only been a writer since 2000. That can't be right. Oh no, he's only written 5 films. So
What?
Event Horizon in 97, Firestarter 2 rekindled TV movie in 2002.
Oh my god.
Mutant Chronicles in 2008, and then Sweet Girl. And he's also produced Sweet Girl. He's acted in 1 film. He's been He's got a very short kind of credit.
That's really surprising, especially since Event. What is with this film? Did like most people who made it just go to hell?
Production hell, yeah. Some parallels here with what happened with John Carpenter after The Thing came out in 82, and he just, Hollywood took a huge dump on him, even though he made one of the I'd say the best alien-based film of 1982. And there's another one that opened, I think, 3 weeks earlier that was gigantic, and it has a character called Elliot in, and that apparently the whole thing was everyone loved this sweet alien called E.T., or that, obviously the movie called E.T., but they hated this monstrous abomination in The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, so that's why that didn't do so well at the box office.
That's unfortunately,
because that's a
classic, fantastic film. So good that they eventually made a board game about it recently.
Oh, The Thing, you have to check that out. Maybe that's something we can highlight. But The Thing is probably my favorite. I'm going to say it, my favorite sci-fi horror. I love Alien. I love aliens, but for me, The Thing is a masterful piece of work in so many ways, and I get so much from it every time I watch it. I'm gonna cut my jibber jabber out.
already planning how to edit this. Nice.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna edit the hell out of this.
While we're on air. That's great. You should keep this part in where I'm telling you about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely staying in. Okay. This is how I go through life, Michael. This is how I edit myself. Okay. This is just a question I wanted to ask you. Kind of a little bit of a personal one. How do you? This might be really straightforward, but how do you kind of set yourself up for watching a horror film? And do you turn all the lights off? Do you always watch films in the same room? What's your kind of way of watching films generally?
Well, nowadays, because I'm a dad and the only time I can really watch horror films is after, or any films really, is when my kid is asleep. We turn the lights down so that there's no reflection on our television from her playroom, and then we turn the volume down, so because her bedroom's above our TV room, and then we turn on the subtitles and then we sink into our very broken couch that we need to actually replace, get some tea, and then watch, and I'll fall asleep about 3 times, even if the movie's good, and have to rewind all 3 times. Jess will get mad at me for that. Sometimes she falls asleep. I accuse her of it, but she denies it. And even when I record her, well, okay, I did it once and she got mad at me. I'll never do that again. But sorry, hon. But yeah, that's how we watch basically anything, including horror. But prior to being a dad, yeah, just lights off, snuggle up with Jess, and get scared and not fall asleep.
We've Vic and I have got a couch that's kind of similar, and we need to get it replaced. And the middle section is it doesn't lend. It's higher than the other two because it's so worn on the left and right, which has a pull-out leg support, and the back goes back. You don't really sit together on the couch at all.
Oh no!
And obviously the space is for our little dog now, Frida. We do this Big John, Little John thing. That's a little Halloween Kills reference, where I kind of blow a kiss or make a kissy sound, and then if she does the same thing, I know she's still awake. even I go like, and then she does the same thing. So like when I go to bed tonight later on, because it's like almost 2:30 in the morning here. When I go to bed later, I kind of sneak in, I don't even turn the light on my phone. I kind of shine it on the wall and then guide myself around the bed. I do the kiss sound, and just to see if she's awake, then decide whether to spoon her or not.
Wow, this got intimate real fast. Wow, just telling secrets of our relationships on air. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
you know, like I'm taller than Jess, right? And like I'm 6 feet tall, really tall Asian. She's 5'6", and because I'm the one who sits on where our couch is broken because like 3 of the springs are just they keep popping out, like they're done, but I keep like slotting them back and then just putting the cushion back on top, and then try to like move my butt so that I'm not kind of sitting directly on them. But sometimes, I'll forget or whatever, or I'm falling asleep, and it'll just be it's Murphy's Law. But at some point where the film is getting scary, all of a sudden the springs give and I just like fall in, like the whole cushion and me and everything, I fall in, and now I'm like shorter than Jess, but like I don't want to, I'm too lazy and I don't want to stop watching, so I spend the rest of the film just like sunken into the couch, and I'm like really low, so she's like really tall.
That feeds it nicely into that narrative about you being the type of personality you are, that you're so polite and nice like that. All I can see is almost like you being folded into a suitcase. That's how you look.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
like when Sigourney Weaver nearly gets pulled into the couch in Ghostbusters. It's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's basically the couch eating me.
Yeah,
the couch is like a monster, and it eats me.
Michael will be giving out his address at the end of the episode if anyone wants to donate a couch. But yeah, that's a great way to end it. But yeah, it's all I see you now is like this in profile like that. Just like... Or like when you see Ace Ventura coming out the ass of a rhino in the second film.
Oh my god, yes.
Into the couch. Something similar to that. I take it you don't have a pun for us this week.
Oh, here we go. I'll credit this one to Jess. What is Dr. Frankenstein's favorite part of TikTok? It's alive.
We're gonna put some tumbleweed somehow or audibly into that.
You're terrible. All right, everyone. If you like that pun, please like and subscribe to our podcast because there's more to come, hopefully, unless my poison works fully and Alex dies, at which point, thank you for listening. We appreciate the support for 3 episodes.